so baby, I'm trying to get away. Trying to lock in the guap, trying to block all the pain. I'm a blind little boss, I'm on top of the game. I've been plotting a lot, now I'm tossing your bait. Yeah, my pops got caught, didn't lock them away. My mom fought hard, 5 jobs in a day. I'll be dropping the box and I'm copping the pain. We out for the stars, so a tropical place. Ooh, yeah, I'm spitting it heavy, the mission is steady. Your bitches are jelly, I'm ditching the petty. You're digging for pennies, I'm itching and ready. I open my heart when I listen to Shetty. I'm bold like a boss, and I'm little like Debbie. I know it's a boss, I got Richard and Getty. I'm holding the guap and I'm whipping the Yeti, yeah, Kari can play with advanced moves. I'm fucking my girl and her man too. I'm sick in the ball like the ran do. My soul is the one that I can't lose. I soak up the sun like a sand dune. I'm holding up love with the bamboo. I'm rolling the blunt by the candle. Taking the game, running it back without taking a drink. Yeah, I'm the one and I'm making a wave. Rolling the blunt and I'm blazing a J. I'm escaping the brain, go straight for the cake. I'ma take to the bank, now taking a break. I'm made for the race, I pray for the day. I wake with a bake in the greatest state.
Welcome back to the Yankee and the Brit. I'm Jay. That's Maddie. We are going to recap week 1. We are going to give you our 3 betting locks of the week. We're going to talk about some other stuff. But again, shout out Kari for the intro. And if you're watching from the UK, don't follow her lyrics or you'll end up in jail.
Having all sorts of technical issues over here. Again, I have no idea why now.
Where are you?
I'm here. Right, there we go. Sorry. So I'm in. I'm in Aachen in Germany, on the border of Belgium. Tomorrow, I'll be getting the train back to the UK through the Channel Tunnel under the sea. This is literally my last night in hostels in Europe for a while now, and it has gone so well so far until the very last night when my laptop charger is broken, my phone charger is broken. The background noise in the hotel, I imagine you can all hear really clearly as well. And the Wi-Fi's no background noise. Great, that's good. I'm sure there'll be some dodgy Wi-Fi somewhere along the line. But as you just heard, my laptop charger is broken. So there's going to be a point in the show where I just drop out and then I'm going to switch to my phone and we'll do the rest of the show from the phone. But we've kind of got it on lock. But hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Yankee and the Brit. And that's a little window into my life.
That's all right. I was giving them legal advice to not follow the intro's lyrics if you're from Britain because you'll end up in jail.
Not follow the what?
The intro's lyrics.
Oh, yeah. Don't do that.
If you're smoking a J and rolling a blunt, you're going to end up in jail in the UK. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. And also, don't speak really loudly with American accents in restaurants in Europe.
Yeah, fuck that. They're pussies. We don't care. I'm telling you, me and my wife the next day, we're out for our anniversary. Maddie had messaged me that this annoying American, you could hear him. And I'm at this Mexican restaurant. We're dining outside. This guy's being super loud. I looked at my wife and I go, and all the Brits would be fucking crying right now because they're a bunch of pussies when it comes to eating.
It's just really annoying. And it's not that loads of people are mad when they're eating. I'm in the middle of a hostel reception right now and people are just looking at me like what a fucking dick, but like it's the American accent just cutting through everything as well. I think that's the problem as well.
We don't have an accent.
Also, the other fun thing is because of your guys' crazy wage increases, which don't work in States, but they're crazy here. Like you guys are able to just walk around Europe like our money's just monopoly money now. So like every nice thing you just have. Oh my God, this is so cheap. Like, isn't this so cheap? Isn't everything such like it's just like, oh, shut the fuck up.
All right. Well, you're in Germany.
Go with some American football.
You're in Germany. I just rewatched Band of Brothers this week, so there's kind of a connection there.
They went through Aachen.
Okay.
They went through Aachen. They went through right where I am right now. Yeah.
And the last thing before we get to football, you will never catch me underneath the fucking seat. Not a chance. Unless I'm swimming. And that's not what you're doing. So, yeah, not a chance it'll ever happen for me.
That's my fucking favorite thing. It's the best thing ever that you can just make it from like loads of places all over Europe to the UK by train and like just no time.
The train is fine. It's going under the water. Like I'm not going through the tunnel going to New York either. Not a fucking chance. Because if that thing caves in, I'm not. No thanks. Fuck that.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, I thought we could start off looking a little bit back on last week in terms of our betting looks and how things went.
let's just pretend that didn't happen. We'll move on. Like
week one, week one, loads of crazy shit happened. I went 9-8, which is okay. Jay, you hit a 5-11, but that's okay because you're going to go 16-0 this week, so that's fine.
I do feel better because Chris Sims yesterday said that week one that was the most money Vegas had ever made in an NFL week ever.
Yeah, it was, and I guess this moves me nicely on to my first question of the show. Which game were you the most surprised about in the betting lines?
Okay, when it first happened, I was surprised. After I sat back and thought about it, not surprised. But my biggest surprise was New England beating Cincinnati. But then I sat back and I thought about it. And I went and did some shit up. Joe Burrow in his first week 1 and week 2 over his career, 1-8. 1-8 in his career. Yeah. And then I thought about this. Now wrap your mind around this because we're in such a passing league. The Cincinnati Bengals are set up to stop fucking Patrick Mahomes and that offense, the Bills, that kind of thing. And when you turn around and just smash mouth them in the mouth, they had no answer for that like 90s smash you in the mouth football. And I think that's how New England's going to have to play to win any games this year.
Yeah, I was surprised as to how many people put money on New England. So everybody's talking about the survivor pools, which I don't know what they are. I've never heard of a survivor pool before. Don't know what they are. But everybody's saying that they lost out loads of money in a survivor pool. I imagine it's you just keep on betting until you lose, right? And last man standing, something like that.
There's a couple different ways, but what I think you're talking about is, so every week we all pick one team to win. If that team wins, we move on. If they don't, we're out of the pool. And you can't re-pick a team. So if you pick New England this week, you can never pick New England to get, like, you get what I'm saying? So
yeah. So
that's how the survivor pool kind of works.
I guess that would be the reason to pick the Bengals, right? But I was surprised as to how many people put money down on the Bengals. Because even during the show, we said this point spread might be too big, like the Bengals start so slow, this point spread, like we both took it as well. But it's the fact that they lost, and that's crazy as well. Like the fact that they lost, the fact that if you just put New England straight up, you would have won like a lot of money on that game. I'm sure there's some guys in Boston who just always bet New England up, who are going to lose a load of money throughout the year, but they made loads of money on this game today.
They're like, what the fuck? We just fucking lost a lot of fucking money. I was on at the bar. I put a fucking bet down and fuck New England hit. I fucking told you, don't ever doubt New England.
Yeah, I think for me, the one that was actually the most surprising, because we said, like, I was surprised that New England won. And I agree with you. The Bengals start so slow. They're also not set up for that kind of football. I think New England's defense might pull them through quite a few games this year. Jacoby Brissett looked okay. Like, he looked fine. Maybe they're a bit better than people. Maybe they're not going to get the first overall pick in the draft. And that's not necessarily anything to do with talent. It's maybe more to do with style of football, style of coaching, all of that kind of stuff. Like, the Patriots' DNA is still there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the Bengals' DNA is still there. They start slow, and that's why they're not going to get a home playoff game this year. But the most surprising one for me was how close that the Texans didn't cover the spread as well. I think, what were the Texans? They were -3 to the Colts, and the Colts played them really close. So the Texans won by 2 in the end. I thought they'd win by a lot more. I nearly put that down as my lock bet of the week last week. And it's Anthony Richardson maybe made the best throw I've ever seen in my life. Like, have you seen that throw that Anthony Richardson made? Off his back foot, 2 guys in the face, rockets it, the most air yards that I can remember seeing. It was incredible.
Yeah, I watched that game after the other night. Went back and watched that game because I wanted to see how Anthony Richardson played, and then I wanted to see Stephon Diggs in Houston, and
yeah, and it was that throw was insane. And actually, Anthony Richardson, he makes that throw, but he misses, completely whiffs on 2 completely open touchdowns to Adonai Mitchell as well. Like not even a misread of the defense or anything, just misses the throw completely. And it was the full Anthony Richardson experience. And I'm here for it because head down running into linebackers, all of this shit was brilliant. So fun to watch. And the Texans did what they needed to do.
3 passes over 50 yards.
Yeah.
2 of them literally traveling. Well, the one you're talking about, if you watch it, travels in the air 70, lays it in his arms like a fucking baby. And then one he throws it at it was 56 yards. He had to be 60 yards away when he launched that thing, laid it in his arm like a baby. Then the other 50-yarder, he hit him for about 40 yards, 50 yards, and then he ran the rest. But like he was laying that fucking ball in on those deep balls. And those short throws, Anthony Richardson's feet aren't set. That's something aren't in the right position, lined up. Yeah. They'll get that straightened out. Because I rewatched those because they were so bad. And I'm like, well, what made it so bad? I actually rewound it. And I was like, oh, if you look at the way his body's facing, his feet and his shoulders are not aligned. Like they're not connected at that point. So they'll get that fixed. That dude put on a fucking show.
Yeah, he'll come back. He'll come back later in the show. Later in this show as well, because one of our segments, for me, one of my answers is Anthony Richardson. So we'll come to that later on. Cool. Awesome. We'll carry on then. So we'll talk about him later. The Texans, however, did exactly what they needed to do. They just didn't cover the spread. But champions are champions. Like, all that matters for them is the win column. Like, at the moment, that's the exact kind of game that they've got to win if they want to be Super Bowl contenders. So let's see what the Texans do throughout the rest of the year. So that was a look back on us. I went 9-8 for my picks last week. Jay went 5-11. But as we said, crazy week 1. And some of the stuff was way out of whack. Like even on our fantasy, the guys who were projected some of the lowest scores, me and you, got some of the highest scores of the week, like for ESPN as well.
In 1 week, I went from being ranked 12th in a 14-man league to being ranked 4th or 5th. You and I are 4th or 5th. I think I'm 5th, but we're next to each other.
Because I was projected 4th. I was projected 13th, which is second bottom in our 4-person league. I'm now at 4, projected 4 for the win. You know,
we did say
my points have now gone up to 1 to 8 and stuff like that. So
we did say we'll give you a little more fantasy info as we go. Shout out to Montana, who hosts Well Beyond the Arc, and they're coming with a college football show coming up soon. My camera's being weird, but whatever.
Yeah.
That junk garbage touchdown by Tyrod Taylor cost Montana the game against me by 0.12 or 0.14 points. So
yeah,
for Montana.
I saw that.
Maddie tried to hate him like they'll adjust and you'll lose.
That it's just because it happened to me once last year. So I only had 2 losses last year, and one of them was due to a points adjustment on the Wednesday. On the Tuesday or the Wednesday, they like removed some yardage from someone or something. Like I have no idea. Just had a crazy points adjustment in the midweek that made me lose a game. Very upsetting. But yeah, really crazy week 1 for the betting stuff. And just a genuinely crazy week 1 in general. Now, moving on to segment 2 of the show. We're going to try and keep these Wednesday shows, like try and have these same segments running all the way through. So how we did segment 1, segment 2, breaking down the bigger games of the week. And I'm going to start, Jay, with the Browns versus the Cowboys. Browns 17, Cowboys 33. Cowboys obviously going in that into that game as underdogs. What did you make of the Browns versus the Cowboys?
That Deshaun Watson may be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL.
Well, hang on. Bryce Young can't see over the offensive line. And
this is, and we'll get to that too. But my thing with Bryce Young is that was only a 17th game in the NFL. And last year he didn't have a coaching staff. Did he look bad? Yes. I'm not willing to send the flyer yet, but I've seen fucking 2.5 years now of Deshaun Watson looking horrible.
Do you know, though, that this is only Deshaun Watson's 13th game as a Brown?
That's because he can't stay healthy, though. And we got Maddie pinwheeling. It's actually better because then you just get me on the show. But I will say when it comes to the Browns and the Cowboys, Deshaun Watson was the biggest issue, if you ask me. They should have rode Ford more. If you look what he did, he did good things in the game. Amari Cooper sucked on my fantasy team because they didn't have anybody who could throw him the ball. And the problem is that the Browns are stuck. If they say they cut him this year, they have to eat like 120 or something million. If they cut him next year, it's the same thing. They're stuck with him for 3 more years if they don't want to eat like 100 and some in salary cap, which is a huge problem. Like you can't go into with the 250 million salary cap and be eating 120 on a single player. So the Browns are stuck with Deshaun Watson. And at this point, I think he's going to end up being the most expensive backup in NFL history. And that might actually go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history, minus maybe Herschel Walker. But we could get into why that made sense back when the Vikings did it, even though it crushed them and got the Cowboys 3 Super Bowls that Maddie never got to see, which is another wild thing. The Cowboys came out, though, and the Cowboys played really well. Dak looked great. CeeDee Lamb looked like he hadn't missed a step from missing preseason, which, excuse me, actually bodes well for the argument the owners are using right now to get rid of another preseason game and bring in an 18th game, because they say that it's just risking injury and the preseason is a waste of time. I think you need some preseason games because you have young guys who have to make the team. But I think guys like CeeDee Lamb are proving for the vets, maybe you can get rid of another preseason game and it won't hurt, because he didn't miss a beat. Ayuk didn't miss a beat. So I don't think there was a big deal in that. And I was just explaining, you probably didn't see it, Maddie, how Deshaun Watson's going to end up being the highest paid backup in the NFL if it keeps it up, because they can't get rid of him for 3 years because the cap ramifications are wild, like 100 and some million. It's absolutely insane. And he forgot how to play football. They should have rode Ford more. I was giving compliments to how the Cowboys played. I like seeing Dak come out. He played well. CD played well. You guys weren't awful in the run, but I still see that being a problem moving forward. I don't think this week exonerates all the running back problems from there, because it's weird because the Browns have a good defense, but they also made Ezekiel Elliott look like before he signed his deal in Dallas. And then another thing that was a problem with the Browns was they had both of their starting tackles on the injured. So that hurt. But I blame the whole thing looking like a shit show on Deshaun Watson, because if your quarterback can't even complete to a wide open Amari Cooper, then how are you going to expect to even run the ball or anything like that? Because then the Cowboys can just stack the line and go, okay. And Ford still had a good day.
Yeah, what I was looking at throughout the game, and I agree with everything that you said. I think the Cowboys played an amazing game. Like I thought they played exactly the way that they had to play to win the game. I think a lot of people have come out and said, "Oh, Dak Prescott didn't look good." Dak Prescott did what he needed to do to win. Once you saw how dominant that we were going to be on defense, like that was it. Just don't throw the ball away. Just run the ball, dink and Dak up the field. Like that's fine. I don't think he played an amazing game. I don't think he played a poor game. There are a few great throws in there. The throw to Brandon Cooks for the touchdown, where he's getting pressured by 2 players, throws it off his back foot. I know Brandon Cooks is open, but it's still a difficult throw in terms of the pressure. There was one to Brandon Cooks down the sideline, and there was a big one over the top to CeeDee Lamb as well. So I think that looked good compared to how some of the quarterbacks have looked in the league. What I was very impressed with was our offensive line play. I think with Tyler Guyton at left tackle going up against Myles Garrett, largely solo at times. Like, look, Myles Garrett beat him on quite a few occasions. And also, Zeke had a great game blocking. Like, in the pass block game, Zeke had an awesome game. So, good to see that as well. But Tyler Guyton looked really good. And I thought our running game looked good despite the running backs. So I agree with you on that. I think so. Dak ran for 75. I think Daldo ran for about 40 because of how the offensive line was in the run game. I thought it was brilliant. So I think the Cowboys looked really great. But what is awful to see for the Browns is how bad Deshaun Watson was, because they have no way of getting out of it. Like, is there a way out of it? Can you think of one? Now, there is a new charge against
That's
him.
it. So Florio was talking about the NFL's investigating him. The union's going to fight it. They're going to say you already knew that he had some of this shit. The way it sounds, though, because there's an actual rape allegation that the Browns might be able to finagle their way out of this. I don't see it happening. I say even if they try it, that they end up getting sued, end up having to pay him, and then they're going to have to eat that cap hit on the back end.
Yeah, guys, if you comment, put loads of comments in there. We always shot our comments up. So if you have any questions, any reactions to anything that we've just said, shot them in the chat. We always put them up and try and answer them as well. Good to see you, Smoke.
Sam K.
Yep. Sam K, sorry.
Sam K, shout out to one half of the dynamic duo that host MMA Underground. If you missed it, go check it out. BKFC fighter and OG legend Wing C were on last night. You can go check that out on replay.
Doing bits actually recently, MMA Underground. So go check them out. Doing really well on the Yankee, on the Brit platform. But yeah, that's the only way that Deshaun Watson, that they can get out of Deshaun Watson is any legal stuff. So we'll see where that ends up. I don't see them getting out of it at all. I'm surprised they let Joe Flacco go. And look, there are other problems for the Browns as well, like the defense. I thought like Myles Garrett was good. I thought the rest of the defensive line didn't look as good as it was last year. I thought like they held the Cowboys up all right. Like, obviously there is a special plays touchdown in there, a special teams touchdown in there, and a defense, like great defensive positions were getting taken up all the time. So the Browns defense didn't play that badly, but it didn't look like the number one defense that it was last year. So
it doesn't help that they were on the field the whole game, because they three and outed like almost every fucking possession.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought the Cowboys defense looked really good. Obviously, that's helped by Deshaun Watson not being very good. But I thought Micah Parsons had a great game. But as you said, it's against backup tackles. So what I'm saying is the Cowboys had a great game. It's not this crazy statement that everybody makes it out, but it's also not. The Browns made it to the playoffs with Joe Flacco last year. Like, so they've gone to Cleveland and beat a playoff team very convincingly. It wasn't as close as 33-17. It wasn't that close. One last thing that I just want to touch on before we move on to your Vikings, Jay, is that the Cowboys might have won that game largely on special teams, is something that I thought was kind of interesting. Like, a special teams touchdown from a punt. Turpin is one of the most dangerous returnmen in the league. And then Brandon Aubrey is just kicking them from all over the place. Kicked a 66-yarder that got wiped off the board. And also, why didn't they go for the 71 yards rather than the Hail Mary? Why didn't they just try it?
I think they caught a penalty, didn't they? Catch a penalty and then send it back out.
Yeah, so they got a delay of game on the 66-yarder, which more clock management issues, great. But a delay of game on the 66-yarder, and then they lined up to take it from the 71, and then they called a timeout and went for the Hail Mary instead. Now, the only reason you don't kick it from 71 yards is because you're worried about it being returned. But Dak got so little on the Hail Mary that the fucker was nearly returned for a touchdown anyway. So you may as well have just
My last thing on that is, this isn't a shot at the Cowboys because they played well, but I think your run defense is something that's going to have to watch, because they had almost 100 yards and on a team that could not pass, had almost 100 yards rushing.
I agree with that. I think we're light at defensive tackle. I think the Cowboys have always been light at defensive tackle. It feels like for a long, long time. Like Jonathan Hankins came in and played there for a while, which was good, but then got injured and is now somewhere else. I'm not entirely sure where. But I saw him in a lineup. I can't remember where though. But we're small. Like Odigizua is immense in the pass rush from defensive tackle, like so good. But sometimes I feel like we're a little lightweight, and then we're also lightweight at the linebacker position as well, which doesn't help, especially when you're against a guy like Jerome Ford, who's an absolute bulldozer. So not great from the run game point of view, but I mean, they played really well. Like I feel like we've chatted shit about the Cowboys, and I have as well, on a 33-17 win. And if that's where we are all season, then fine by me. Okay, now a team that are definitely where they want to be to start the season off, and there's very little that you can say bad against them, is Jay's Minnesota Vikings playing against the New York Giants, 28-6 win. Jay, go off.
You're a bigger fan of them than I am, but PFF has had Sam Darnold as the #1 quarterback in the NFL this week with his PFF grade, above Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure how PFF gets there, but Sam Darnold played great. The interception didn't bother me because it was a tip from the offensive line, so I didn't here we go with Sam fucking Darnold again. But what I liked the most was Aaron Jones is a fucking monster, and he proved that he still got it, and he proved that he hasn't lost a step with that run to the end zone. He just kicked on that extra speed, made the corner. Also, I love the way the defense played. The Vikings offensive line and defense altogether woke up Sunday and chose violence. And I really appreciate it. They just, even the offensive line. I have never seen a pass blocker be so violent as Christian Darrisaw is. He is completely violent on pass blocking too. It's amazing. He was rated the #1 left tackle. And shout out Blake Brandel, who moved to left guard for us this year. We drafted him a couple years ago. Now he's a starter. 90.1 grade from PFF as the left guard. So
look at Jay with the PFF.
They've been shitting on the line, and I've heard PFF, Chris Sims, and Colin Cowherd now say that the Vikings have one of the top 5 offensive lines in the NFL. That's just wrapping my head around. That is a complete, it's a complete anomaly to me, and I've never thought I would hear that. So that's good. But I think the Vikings came out and played the perfect game against a really bad team. And people who don't think coaching matters, go back and watch that game. So 2 of the huge runs by back-to-back, well, they weren't huge. They were like 10 and 18 and then 21 yards by Aaron Jones is coaching, because it was 3rd and long. The Vikings pick up the first down. Dexter Lawrence is on the bench, and they go to the hurry up. They're like, we are not letting Dexter Lawrence get back on the field.
Yep.
2 runs, bang, bang. Dexter Lawrence gets back on the field. They hit him with a pass. Later on, they take Dexter Lawrence out on a 3rd down, pick up a first down. They speed it up. They're like, fuck that. We're leaving Dexter Lawrence sitting on that bench. That is coaching. That is coaching right there that helps win. And I know there's people out there that don't believe coaching is as important as it is. That's the kind of shit that wins you games instead of loses you games as a coach.
Yeah, I think I'd put in my questions. And look, it's a 28-6 win against possibly the worst team in the NFL. Well, bar one, maybe they're the 2nd worst team in the NFL, the Giants. However, there's so much to like about this Vikings team, and they may be the most underrated team in the NFL. And I think it's largely down to, we've spoken about this already, it's largely down to the fact that, what was they were -1.5 to win this game, an absolute lock bet for me. The Vikings beating the Giants by -1.5. And I think it's largely down to JJ McCarthy getting injured, and all of a sudden everybody goes, oh my God, they're down to their backup quarterback. Their backup quarterback has more experience, played more downs in the NFL than their starting, who might have been their starting quarterback. So I just don't agree with that at all. And I think if you look at the Vikings team, they have possibly the best offensive coordinator at head coach in the league. There's like obviously Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, um, Ben Johnson of the Lions, Bobby Slowick, like of the Texans, those kind of guys. But Kevin O'Connell is right, Mike McDaniels, but Kevin O'Connell is right there. And then a defensive coordinator, they have Brian Flores as well. That could be the best offensive and defensive coordinator combo in the league. Like it just could be. And coaching does matter. I agree with you. And I think we've always said that coaching matters. I think their offensive line just needs to stay healthy and it'll be a top 10 offensive line in the league, 100%, maybe even a top 5. But
And
my favorite thing,
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I thought.
my favorite thing that I saw was Sam Darnold started in a new system. Well, kind of new system. First 12 passes, 12 completions. Like, I thought that was a great stretch. That's exactly what they need from Sam Darnold right now, because on top of having the best offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator combo in the league, they also have the best wide receiver room in the league. We'll see how Jordan Addison's injury heals up. They also have Aaron Jones, who might be the most like undercover, I guess, like under the radar signing of the season. But Aaron Jones is a massive upgrade at the running back position for the Vikings from last season. And I just think their defense looks completely different. And when I've thought of Minnesota in recent years, I haven't thought like the purple people eaters. Like I haven't thought that kind of thing for a long time. And they now, as you said, look like a return to that kind of team. I don't think anybody's going to want to play the Vikings too often.
No, and shout out to that secondary, because you didn't hear their names called once, which means they played great. And they went from the youngest secondary in the league to an older one with Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, and Byron Murphy. And they fucking played great. And I love that they're playing a lot of man-to-man now, which frees up stuff. You said saw Van Ginkel. That I know he's right there, but people don't understand how hard that interception is. When they kick it out to the side and it's just rifled right at you and a linebacker snatches it. And people who don't follow the Vikings aren't going to know this, but he's been doing that all preseason in practice too.
Yeah, well, we saw Nakobe Dean drop one in the Eagles versus the Packers game. But that's not Eagles hate. It just happened to be the same.
No, but that's a really hard interception because of the angle, and you're right there. Yeah. Yeah,
really hard play. And it's the read that was very impressive, because it's if I remember it rightly, I watched the 40 minutes on like straight after on Sunday. But if I remember it properly, it was a screen out to the flat and he just jumped it. And it was at a point where not many teams would be running a screen there. Because just because of the state of the game, as I remember the interception.
It all through the 90s and the early 2000s, it changed. But the rule always was inside your either 20, you don't run a screen, but you see them now.
Yeah. And it was like, it's a good jump. And look, how long do you think Daniel Jones is going to make it into this season?
I'm surprised Drew Lock didn't finish that game.
Yeah. Yes. And it's because it's Drew Lock behind him now. So usually I'm like, nah, you may as well just see if you can ride it out, because if he plays shit, you get a higher draft pick.
Unless that's
you don't have much behind him. Yeah.
Now, are the powers that be and the head coach in this kind of tank where we just play Daniel Jones, we'll get Shedeur Sanders or one of these top quarterbacks coming out, whoever their guy is. Maybe that's something that they're thinking about. Like, we're just going to tank this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you if they hadn't paid Daniel Jones. So I imagine some jobs are quite linked to that payment.
The mid-season Hard Knocks or the off-season Hard Knocks, how they talked about Daniel Jones was absolutely wild, and I can't believe they let that get out on for the rest of us to see, because they really just said he ain't the guy and we can't win with him. I'm paraphrasing, but that's literally what they said, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure with the Vikings. And look, you would think as a Cowboys fan, like I want the Giants to be bad, But I don't. It's the same with the Commanders. I don't want them to be bad. Like I want us to be a good division. Like it's more fun when you play against good teams, right? But the Giants were like they were shocking. They were really bad, and it all starts at quarterback for them as well. Daniel Jones just isn't a star in this league, and I think Drew Lock looked good last season. So I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if Drew Lock isn't playing by week 6, personally. Okay, moving on to our next game, which was the oh no, what have I done? The Detroit Lions versus the Rams.
Yeah, Maddie was a little
yeah.
hyperbolic when he sent over the notes. Are you worried about the Rams? Do the Lions have the best O-line in the league? Did the Lions maybe have the best week in the league? So, no, I'm not worried about the Rams.
Let me just explain that. Explain that.
I'm answering them first. Then you can explain.
Yeah. No. I just mean what they are. We now do show notes before the show, everybody, which is nice. We're trying to like not be as just off the cuff. I mean, we have gone way over time already, so it's no bother. But yeah. So they're the show notes that I sent over to Jay. Go on, Jay. You answer them.
No, I'm not worried about the Lions. No, they don't have the best O-line in the league, but they do have a really good one. And did the Lions have the best week in the league? No, not even close.
Yeah. So I was just repeating a few things that I've heard, basically. As a
They barely beat the Rams. I don't know how that's the best week.
Yeah. So I don't agree. I don't agree with them either. Now, the Rams, I am a little worried about, largely because of the injuries. I'm not worried about the Rams because they took the NFC, like a team in the NFC Championship game. They took them to overtime and lost, even though they were getting loads of injuries. But the amount of shuffling around that the Rams have to do on that offensive line is crazy. Like it's a lot of shuffling around on that offensive line to make it work now. And obviously Puka Nacua being out, like, yeah, Puka Nacua being out, I think isn't great. And being put on IR definitely isn't great because he'll now miss at least 4 games. So that's not amazing for them. But they managed to cope last year without Cooper Kupp, who's like the more experienced version of Puka Nacua, right? So they should be fine from that point of view. The other point is that Sean McVay's kind of offenses need good offensive lines. If you look at the stats, it's not like Kyle Shanahan's, who we'll get onto, where it doesn't matter who's in his O-line or who's necessarily at running back, they're still going to go for 100 yards. The Rams do need that good O-line. Like, I think back to their team after they won the Super Bowl and their offensive line. So we'll see where they get to. But yeah, I'm not too worried about them either because even with all those injuries, they took the Lions to overtime. So that's fine. I don't think that the Lions have the best offensive line in football. I think it's top 5. I don't think that you can say. I think once you get to like top 5, it's very difficult to say who's best out of that top 5 from there. And then the best week in football for the Lions is because of Jordan Love going down for the Packers as well. So they get their win against the Rams, the Packers lose, and the quarterback of their main rival goes down as well. That's a good week for them. Never want to be happy for an injury of another player. However, what they weren't expecting is Sam Darnold looking really, really good for the Vikings, I imagine, as well. So possibly not the best week here.
And it didn't help that even though they won, the Bears looked like complete ass.
Yeah. I nearly put the Bears in there. I nearly put them in an overreaction as well. So I wonder if you've got them in an overreaction. If not, I'll say my overreaction when we get there. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Because I'm not overreacting to it because it's the first game, but they look completely like ass.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where you've taken the overreactions because I've kind of gone. I think this might be true, but I'm not saying like this is 100% true. But yeah, yeah. So with that Lions game as well, look, I thought the Lions looked good. I thought how the Lions would look. Now, what's a worry for the Lions is Jared Goff threw some real shit. Like Jared Goff looked more like Jared Goff from the Rams than he did from the Lions last year. Throughout that game. So I'll be interested to see where they kind of go. And the Rams, it's going to be difficult with those injuries, man. We'll see where they get to. Yeah. Okay. Worried about the Lions at all, Jay? Or Vikings division winners now?
No, I still need to see what's going on with Jordan Love because they didn't put him on IR. And Matt LaFleur made it sound yesterday like he might play Sunday.
That would be that would be crazy if he manages to play on Sunday. That would be a crazy amount of good luck for them. So we'll see where they get to. And the final game that we're going to be reacting to this week before going into our overreactions on our weekly awards is the 49ers versus the Jets. This game I thought was going to be really close, and it just wasn't. It looked like it was going to be an amazing game. The Jets had one drive where they went down the field, scored that touchdown, and I thought, shit, the Jets they're fucking for real, because it was feed Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson gets 2 catches on 3rd down. That's awesome. Touchdown. Said whoever it was, like, oh yeah, this looks like what the Jets are going to look like, and then they just fell off from there. So your reactions to the Jets versus the 49ers?
Well, I got to start with the 49ers and say that they absolutely should be fined, and the NFL 100% needs to investigate them, because nobody knew about Christian McCaffrey till Sunday outside of the team, but the whole team knew on Friday, which means they broke the rules when it comes to disclosing player injuries. I want to know if Christian McCaffrey is going to be back now that he's limited in practice today. I don't know what's going on with him, but I think they absolutely need to be investigated, especially with gambling being legal. That's when it becomes a whole problem, because now you look like an asshole, and there's some people who could have legitimate bitches, and you could get lawsuits out of this. And like, I'm not saying this one's going to cause a lawsuit, but shit like this could cause a lawsuit. As for the 49ers, I think they look good. I think that without Christian McCaffrey, people are like, they didn't seem to miss a beat. I don't know. It might have been worse with Christian McCaffrey in there. I mean, being serious. But when it comes to the Jets, I'm not worried. That defense is going to get it. Robert Saleh is going to get them clicking. And to me, Rodgers just looked rusty, like a guy who hasn't played football in a fucking year. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. And by the end of the game, Rodgers was looking more like Rodgers. When he hit Lazard down that sideline and there was no room on that sideline, and he just, like, that was a perfect throw, Rodgers is going to get back to form. And I remember some years back when he was with the Packers and he looked at everybody and just said R-E-L-A-X. That's all he said. Yeah. And what did they do? They went on a fucking run to the NFC Championship game. So, like, I'm not worried about the Jets just yet.
Yeah, I think that Aaron Rodgers might just be sick of the sight of 49ers backup running backs running down his team. Like, you can't blame any of this game on Aaron Rodgers. And I know in the show notes, I see the problem is when I look at the show notes right now, I go off the camera because I'm on my phone, not on my laptop. But I probably put something about, like, is Aaron Rodgers washed or something? Because it's just.
No, you didn't.
No, nothing that far.
No, in your notes, I'll run them down quick. They said, did the 49ers have the best week? Jets defense overhyped? ? Will the 49ers be able to run 150 yards consistently without McCaffrey? No to that last one, by the way. No.
Yeah. So the Jets, this can't be put down on Rodgers. Now, I think Rodgers outside of the pocket and on the move looked old. Like, I think he looked really old when he was on the move outside the pocket. But the offensive line for the Jets looked all right. So he shouldn't have to do that much play outside of the pocket. So that'll be fine. And I agree with you. Like, I think Nick Wright's basically been saying that Aaron Rodgers will be able to throw those kind of balls until he's like 70. Like, it's not
my
an
wife
arm
and
problem.
I were actually talking about this the other day, and I said some guys fall off because they throw with their legs, but this was during the game. I said Rodgers will be winging that ball around like that when he's 60. Like Marino, I just watched Marino last season in pregame go out and launch a 55-yard like toss, and Marino is like got to be close to 70.
Yeah, like John Elway will be able to like lace up the ball for miles until he's on his deathbed, basically.
But Tom Brady
But,
won't.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom Brady would be done now. Or like Cam, I think the most devastating one was maybe Cam Newton or maybe Ben Roethlisberger that I've seen. Like the biggest fall offs. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers will be able to throw those balls until he's 70. So that's not really the problem. It was more about him being able to set his feet and like make the reads and knocking off a bit of rust. But Aaron Rodgers was only on the field for 19 minutes. Like, what are you going to do if you're only on the field for 19 minutes compared to the 49ers who are on the field the rest of
41.
whatever the rest of the game is, 41 minutes, right? Like, if you're only on the field for 19 minutes, what are you supposed to do, especially against a team like that? And also, I do think that the 49ers would be able to run the ball for 100 yards, 150 yards without Christian McCaffrey there. Christian McCaffrey obviously gives them a massive edge in the run game as well.
You said 150 in the notes. That's
yeah,
why
yeah,
I said no.
100 to 150. 150 is fine. Maybe 100, yes, 150. We're getting there. Christian McCaffrey gives them a slight edge in the run game compared to other running backs, where Christian McCaffrey just causes an absolute headache, which they can't replicate without him. Is in the passing game. They'll never be able to replicate that in the passing game. So, yeah, I think that the 49ers look better than I thought they were going to look, to be honest. I thought the 49ers just looked at. I think the Jets need to sign Hassan Reddick. I think Hassan Reddick might be the biggest winner this week. I know I said which team is the biggest winner this week, but I think Hassan Reddick might genuinely be the biggest winner of the week. They need to sign him by Sunday.
New England Patriots are the biggest winner of the week, if you ask me. But
well, yeah.
Chris McCaffrey doesn't get enough credit for how well he blocks either, and he's shiftier than the guys. Like, he doesn't need as big a hole to get to where he's going as some of those guys.
Yeah.
I want to know if he's playing next week, but that's just because the Vikings play him, and I'm like, would you just fucking let me know if he's fucking playing next week? But I think they need to be investigated because of the way they handled that.
Yeah, we've also got to do we've got to do our bets for the pre-game tomorrow. Like, what the hell? Like, we need to know if Christian McCaffrey is going to be playing before we pick over the Vikings or the 49ers.
We'll wait until Sunday morning for those picks.
Yeah, I suppose we just won't make it one of our big three. You're right. Yep, there you go. Unless you want to do something crazy and make it one of your big three. That was fun. But yeah, the 49ers look way better than I thought they were going to look, to be honest.
Are you going to? Is your Brock Purdy hate over now? Then does that mean your Brock Purdy?
I've never hated Brock Purdy.
You don't respect Brock Purdy. Like, you don't give him the respect he deserves. If he was a first-round draft pick, nobody would talk this way about him.
I respect Brock Purdy. I just think if you put Dak Prescott into the 49ers offense, you'll get the same numbers. That's all I think. So I don't hate him. I like him just as much as Dak Prescott.
I don't know. I think that Brock Purdy's probably, if not pushing, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Right, okay. They better pay him like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
They're gonna. He's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Who's the player that they lose when he's earning $65 million? Also, just want to say, by the way, just Kittle. Before we move on to that, then they'll lose Kittle. How much is Kittle on? Because they'll have to lose Debo as well, surely.
They can do gymnastics with that roster.
Yeah.
And Trent Williams is the only guy they pay on the offensive line. So, like, do you lose Musgrave on the defense? Maybe. But then you can replace him in free agency or in a draft. He's not going to make or break your defensive line. I think they're going to be fine. I think if you're going to see the Cowboys sign Micah next year without losing anybody. You know?
Yeah. I think what I think Brock Purdy might do as well is sign the big deal, but make it team friendly in terms of years that they can play around and make gymnastics with. So he gets his money, but he gets his players early in the career as well, and then makes his money on the. They're going to have to rebuild it sometime soon, the 49ers. Same as the Cowboys are going to have to rebuild sometime soon. Same as Howie Roseman's a fucking genius, so it looks like the Eagles have already completed their rebuild, so it doesn't matter.
And then,
so you make your money at the end.
when we were talking about the Vikings. Shout out Harrison Phillips for getting the extension. I'm glad to see him extending for 2 more years. Big deal for the Vikings. I love that. And I don't know if I love or hate that Kawasi signs everybody to a 2 or 3 year deal. I don't know if I love or hate that.
Yeah, I think it's good for keeping that. Right, this is something that I wanted to talk about with the Browns. Has Deshaun Watson given up due to the amount of money that he's received? Right, I don't think it's that. I just think he's not necessarily very good. Right,
he doesn't look like he is a happy person anymore.
No, I
and
wouldn't
like
be
when
if
you
I had
watched
this many
him when he was a Texan, he was really happy, go lucky, like everything was. I think, and he did it to himself, but I think the lawsuits took it out of him. He didn't want to be in Cleveland to begin with, but they offered him so much money he couldn't say no. So now he's living somewhere he doesn't want to be. The media is piling on him. He just injuries. I think the dude is not in a good place mentally.
Yeah. So then the massive upside then of only signing people on 1 to 2 year deals is they're much easier to move off, like in that space of time. It means you have to pay people more often, but they're much easier to move off if you need to, as well. Okay, moving on to segment 3, and a segment that I think we will be having all the way through the year on these review shows as well. Hopefully you all like it. Hopefully we'll get you all commenting about yours as well. It's Overreaction Weekly, because we can't have Overreaction Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday because Rick Eisen just now does an Overreaction every day of the week. So we're Overreaction Weekly. That's our segment. We'll have big sirens at some point coming across the screen. I'm working on it. Overreaction Weekly, where me and Jay pick our 3 overreactions after the games this week. So go on, Jay. What are your overreactions of the week?
My first overreaction is the Browns would win a Super Bowl if they had kept Baker Mayfield.
Did
you see Baker play? Baker's on
awesome.
fire. And Deshaun can't play. And all that money they could have used that they signed Deshaun Watson for, if they'd have just played right with Baker Mayfield, that team would be even more stacked. So my overreaction after watching Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson play is if the Browns would have kept Baker Mayfield, they would have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Because Baker Mayfield.
It's overreaction.
I don't hate that at all. So Baker Mayfield in the regular season, his numbers aren't incredible. But if you actually look at Baker Mayfield in the postseason, he has 2 playoff wins with 2 not so great teams. He has a playoff win with the Bucks. He has a playoff win with the Browns. I don't hate that at all.
And his regular season, he played injured his last year with the Browns, which I kept screaming. I kept screaming he shouldn't be playing, and you agreed. The year before, he was great. And then he was with the Panthers, the fucking the Rams. He didn't have stability. And then last year was his first year with the Bucks. I think finally we're going to see Baker healthy and playing with a team that wants him. And this year is going to make people go, what were they thinking with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, definitely. And I think with Baker Mayfield, we saw what he looks like with good wide receivers this week. Like Mike Evans, because last year they had Mike Evans, but Chris Godwin wasn't really up to it. But this week, Chris Godwin's back. The Bucs are back, man. The Bucs, after all that chat about the Falcons, Kirk Cousins didn't look great. I know it's a new system and everything, but he didn't look great.
I don't know why
Sam
that makes
Darnold
me happy.
outplayed him.
I'm a fucking hater because that makes me happy.
Yeah, man. Sam Darnold outplayed Kirk Cousins. Just saying. So we saw how the Falcons look. The Bucs might still be the best team in the NFC South, and it's largely down to the fact that they might have the best quarterback in the NFC South still. So good overreaction. I really like that one. I'll go with my first overreaction. Sorry, just doing this on the phone is just a nightmare. Anthony Richardson is already better than Cam Newton. That's my overreaction. I think just that one throw where he off the back foot getting pressured, he's already proved to me he's a better thrower than Cam Newton, and I'd say their running ability is close to parallel.
So I'm just going to throw it out there because my second one is Anthony Richardson is already a future Hall of Famer. Which
would make him better than Cam Newton, because there's no way that Cam Newton's making it to the Hall of Fame. Now, would Anthony Richardson? See, I really liked Cam Newton when he was a player. I really disliked post-player Cam Newton, like him on the podcast, like
I'm actually
slagging
in
off
the
all the
reverse.
quarterbacks. Oh, okay, that's fun. Him on the podcast being like, I should be. I'm still one of the best 32 quarterbacks. Cam, if you decided to fall on a fumble, you would have a Super Bowl ring, but you don't because you pussied out on falling on a fumble. So let's calm
I
down.
don't
Because Anthony
agree.
Richardson would have fallen on that fumble.
I don't agree. He's still one of the best 32 players, but I also don't have a problem with him believing it.
Yeah,
Like, you're an
that's fair
alpha
enough.
male, you're an alpha athlete. You should
Yeah,
always think how good you know what I mean? So, like, I
yeah,
get that part of it.
yeah. Now we've already spoken about Anthony Richardson at the top of the show a little bit. There were a lot of flaws to his game, right? He threw 19 times for 9 completions, but his 9 completions made about 250 odd yards. Like
And then his
that
legs.
stat line is insane, by the way. 9 completions off 19 attempts for about 250 yards is just a wild stat line. Considering he could have got way over 300 if he just threw the short route to Dory Mitchell twice that I missed that were completely wide open. So and his like, it's not just that it's not that he's fast because like Jaden Daniels, for example, who looked all right for the Commanders. Jaden Daniels probably had the worst opening throw to an NFL career that I've ever seen, considering his throw went so far backwards. It was a 23-yard loss for a fumble on his first throw as an NFL quarterback. But other than that, he looked pretty good. But Jaden Daniels is fast. Anthony Richardson is strong. Like Anthony Richardson is putting his head down against linebackers and looking like the linebacker might get more hurt. So yeah, I think Anthony Richardson's a lot of fun there. And obviously I don't know whether I'm ready to say he's a Hall of Famer yet, but I think he's better than Cam Newton.
Well, I'm not saying that if he quit today, he's a Hall of Fame, but he will be. Like, he is a
Yeah.
more athletic Big Ben. That's what I see. And
Mm.
so he
A
will
more
be the
athletic
future Hall
Big
of
Ben.
Famer.
I
That's my
love that.
overreaction.
I love that Big Ben that can run. That is brilliant. This is an overreaction that I'm not totally comfortable with, but Joe Burrow's washed? Question mark? Overreaction? Like Joe Burrow coming out.
Okay.
This was meant to be the year. He's
I got-
always injured.
I got heat last year for saying Joe Burrow was overrated.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it's so with this Joe Burrow is washed. You just need to look at his injury history now, right? Like he's always injured, and I think he's injured. I was looking at it week 1, and I just think his body just hasn't fully recovered from his other injuries.
and
I just don't think he can play that badly.
Darius Butler, AJ Hawk, and Pac-Man Jones all had that same wrist injury and said they lost like 40% of their motion.
Yeah, I don't think. Look, I don't think it's there for him anymore, and I think if he has to go out because of these injuries, I think it's just such a shame because
I don't think he's washed,
coming in
but
was
I don't
brilliant.
think it's a crazy question.
Yeah, I think he really needs to prove to us, oh, just sit a season until you're fully recovered. That's my overreaction. That
I
is
feel
washed, but
like, and tell me if you think I'm crazy, I feel like if you took Joe Burrow and put him with KOC, who's the quarterback whisperer, with Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, you'd see a completely different quarterback. I think they have the talent. I
Right.
just don't trust. I don't think their coach is the best coach for him.
okay, I think that's fair. I think the other thing that I don't like about Joe Burrow is the amount of people saying like, well, he didn't have T. Higgins. Well, he did have Jamar Chase, like
Oh,
you
yeah, no,
can't
that's
just
not
say,
an excuse. I'm just saying,
I
like,
didn't have 2 number ones.
I don't think he's got a good coach for him. I think they go out
No.
there and go, okay, Joe, do it. Instead of scheming guys open and playing
That's
that
who
way,
he
I think
is.
they make him make the team instead of helping him out.
Yeah, because that's who Joe Burrow is to me. So Joe Burrow to me is, I think a systems quarterback is such a loaded thing to say. I don't mean it offensively. I just mean like he needs to have a good scheme
Every
around
good
him.
quarterback is a system quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not. It's. I don't mean it in like a mean way. I just mean like, all right, Josh Allen. You could put Josh Allen in pretty much any team, and he would still look like Josh Allen. And whether you like that style of play or not, personally, I don't love that. I don't think it's a good way to win championships. And how many Super Bowl rings does Josh Allen have? You know. Um. But I has Josh Allen been to a Super Bowl? Lost against the Chiefs in the championship games every time, hasn't he? Yeah. So it's just like it. I don't like that style of quarterback, but you could put Josh Allen in any team and he would still like have an amazing game. But Joe Burrow isn't that. Joe Burrow needs a good scheme with good players, like all of that. And I like those kind of quarterbacks. I don't think he'll get over the injuries. That's my main question. Jay, your third overreaction.
Bryce Young is a bust.
That goes very well with my third overreaction, which is the Panthers are the worst team in NFL history, and that the 2021 Georgia Bulldogs would beat them right now.
I actually almost went with the Panthers will go 17 or 0-17. That's what I almost went with instead of Bryce Young is a bust after 17 games.
Yeah, he's too short. It's so
I don't
clear.
think it's that. I think he got zero talent, and he's got a second head coach, second system, and they're not doing anything to help him out. Like he's got nobody to throw the ball to.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. Like, he might have one of the worst. He might have one of the worst. He does have the worst team in the NFL in front of him. Like the offensive line was better than it was today. On Sunday, the offensive line was better than it has been all of last season. But that's because it was so awful last season. He has Deontay Johnson is his number one target at the moment, which the second player on the Steelers offense who looked awful last year, like not maybe the best person to be able to throw to. They don't really have anyone at running back anymore. I think they did their rebuild totally wrong. And I think he's too short. And he's the same height as Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray had a great game, but Kyler Murray is much more mobile. So Kyler Murray does a lot of his great plays outside of the pocket. So that works more for him. He's about the same height. I think Drew Brees was an inch taller, but Drew Brees played on his tiptoes the entire time, whereas Bryce Young is crouched when he plays as well. So Bryce Young cannot access the middle of the field as well. And I just think the Panthers are the roster they've built around them is horrendous. I love how our brains have kind of gone together on two of those overreactions there, which means maybe they're not overreactions. Maybe they're just solid takes.
So I did have another overreaction, but I saved it for. I saved it to answer a question in our final segment.
Oh, okay. And our final segment is our weekly awards, another segment which will be coming back. I really like the idea of doing weekly awards because it means a player could just be shipped the whole time and then have one great weekend. And get an award from us. And Jay, who was this week's MVP for you?
Joe Mixon. And my overreaction was going to be Joe Mixon is the rushing leader by the end of the year.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a big one. That's a big call. Because I was slagging off Joe Mixon, not gonna lie, to start the season. I was saying that Joe Mixon is one of the least efficient running backs in the league in terms of yardage that he gets. And it turns out it's the Bengals offensive line. Because you put him in the Texans offensive line and that guy was elite. He was elite. Like really, really well played.
And he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. I think it's important for him that he stayed in the same conference as the Bengals. I think that's important for him because he's like, right, I'm going to go all the way. Like I'm going all the way. Now you have a Texans team who have Joe Mixon at running back, a good offensive line, CJ Stroud at quarterback, Stephon Diggs, who played a really good game, Nico Collins, who played a really good game, Tank Dell, who played a really good game. Did you see what they've done with their wide receivers, by the way? They've basically given the yards to Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and then given the touchdowns to Stephon Diggs to keep Stephon Diggs like happy throughout. as well. But yeah, that Texans team was fire.
Nico Collins made some amazing catches in that game. Also, they have maybe the best backup running back, a number 2 in Singletary for them right now, sitting there, or not Singletary. Fuck, who was it? Fuck, I'm blanking. But whatever. The thing with Joe Mixon though is, I think he's got a chip. I think he was on a team that didn't want him. But what I really like is how mature he handled it when they said, "Do you wish you would be playing the Bengals this year?" And he said, "No, they left me where they left me, and I left them where I left them."
That's nice. It's nice. I don't believe him. I think he would have been sitting laughing watching them get beat by the Patriots.
Saying the right thing when you want to go off and say something wild, right? That's like, I don't have to like somebody as an adult to treat them with respect. That's the thing.
Yeah, or like Trump saying that immigrants are eating cats and dogs, in Springfield and Ohio.
Let's not go there. Oh, that was a whole thing in itself. But I did put up a post that said I'm marked safe from eating my pet.
I saw that.
My pet being eaten. But yeah,
I saw that. Oh, by the way, guys, we're not saying that we don't like Donald Trump or anything. We just thought that was a funny line to come out with. Like, let's see what happens. We're neutral politicians when we come to the Yankee and the Brit football show.
I just have a disdain for the whole 2-party system, so we don't even have to get.
Yeah, fair enough. My MVP of week 1 is TJ Watt. I thought TJ Watt had an amazing game.
Too, but yes.
Yeah. Didn't see a single player have as big of an impact on a game as TJ Watt. TJ Watt was so good. He was beating he was getting sacks, fumbles, and fumble recovery, all in singular plays. Got 2 strip sacks taken back for penalties that were a bit close. I don't think the refs had the best week this week, but we don't really need to talk too much about them. But TJ Watt was unbelievable again, and his claims for Defensive Player of the Year is right there if he plays like this all week. What, is he injured? Did he get hurt?
TJ?
Yeah.
I don't think so. JJ was just on Pat McAfee, and they didn't say anything about him being injured.
Cool. It's good. It's good when TJ Watt doesn't get an injury after a big game of play. But he
came off the line so perfect, they called him offsides when he wasn't.
Yeah, they have that in 100 meters, don't they? Where it's you've reacted so quickly that you can't possibly have reacted that quickly. They have that.
Yeah, the ref even told him at halftime he was wrong, which I'll give the ref credit for that one. My bad.
That's bad. That's okay. Until you're going to make things like that automated, they're always going to have human error with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I thought TJ Watt was awesome. I think the Steelers played a good game against the Falcons entirely because they just need to play behind their defense. Yeah, if you don't need to score touchdowns to win, Jay, they kicked, what is it, 6 field goals?
And if it wasn't for penalties, Kirk Cousins has 5 turnovers.
Yeah, it might have been, Kirk Cousins might have a fumble problem. Who would have known that?
He's always had a strip sack problem, always.
Yeah. So had a huge strip sack problem last year as well. Yeah, but TJ Watt had a great game. I think the Steelers played well as well. Okay.
Who do you have for your rookie?
Okay, my best rookie of the year. He is going to be the best rookie of the year, I think. But for this week, Joe Alt. I think Joe Alt played an amazing game of
not a sexy pick, but I can't argue with you.
Don't need to be. The Chargers have been, from going to Showtime LA Chargers, are now the least sexy team in football, and I'm here for it. Lad McConkey had a great game. I nearly went for Lad McConkey as well, by the way, just putting that out there. But Joe Alt had an amazing game, amazing blocking, and the Chargers have gone from a perennially awful O-line to having 2 of the best tackles in the league.
I don't have a problem with that. I am the guy who left J.K. Dobbins on my bench, so that kind of hurt.
I know, that is so unfortunate. You got the win.
Yeah, I got the win in the other league where I left Worthy on the bench too, though, so I eked out. But
Good for you, man.
my rookie of the week is 7 pressures, 1 sack, Dallas Turner.
Yeah, great pick. Great pick. Dallas Turner. The Vikings got quite a lot of hate for taking Dallas Turner, I thought. And I think he's
Because
going
people
to
didn't like
prove them
that they
wrong.
gave up shit to move up twice in the first round, but whatever. I don't.
Yeah, they got the 2 players that they want to come away with. It's like the Texans going up for Anderson last year, right? And that paid off well. Dallas Turner looked really good. Yeah, had an amazing game as well. And I think I was going to say you've unearthed a gem, but he was the best defensive player because he was the best defensive player in the draft, and we were all saying it. And then everybody started saying Latu.
It was him or the Byron Murphy, the tackle that they were talking going 1 and 2, or the dude who'd you just say from UCLA?
Latu.
Yeah,
Latu.
those 3 guys. But Latu had all the injuries, so everybody was saying it was Dallas Turner. But they got him at what, 20, 21? I don't remember. But yeah,
Latu got absolutely locked up this week against Gas Mask.
Oh, yeah, fuck.
Tackle.
Jeremy Tunsil.
Yeah. That's so shit. He's one of the best tackles in the league, and I forgot his name and referred to him as Gas Mask guy rather than
That's all right.
Texans' best tackle in the league.
My whole life, since Aaron Jones got busted for weed, I've always referred to him as Aaron, yes, I have marijuana officer Jones, because he admitted to having weed as soon as he opened his apartment door, and the cop's like, "Do you have weed?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Good for him. That's what you should do.
He should have said. He shouldn't have answered the fucking door. Like, let's be real. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like Tyreek Hill shouldn't have pulled over by the sounds of it. Either that was fucking wild. That was crazy. It was mad. Okay. And the final award of the week. Final award of the week. Who is your team of the week?
New England Patriots.
I also have the New England Patriots as my team of the week. I think they came away from the biggest, what were they, -7.5 to the spread, which we both said might be too many points, but we didn't think they'd win.
The win.
Yeah, they got the win. And not a close win. They dominated the Bengals. Like, the Bengals were not even close. And it was the Patriots playing Patriots ball, really good defense. Don't do dumb shit on offense. Like, they were fine. They looked okay. I think they might get, from thinking that they were going to be the worst team in football this year, I think they might get 5 to 6 wins.
All right.
That's where I think they might be at. So I think the Patriots looked okay. I also thought the other team that I kind of had in mind, the other team that I had in mind for this was the Cardinals, even though they lost and they gave away a big loss. They gave away a big lead. I thought if you actually looked at their gameplay, they look way better than anybody expected them to look as well. They should have won that game. But definitely the Patriots.
All right. That was a lot of fun. I like the overreactions. I like the awards. I think it's going to be a fun time all year doing that.
Every Wednesday. Come back every Wednesday to see more of that, guys.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out all the other shows. We're going to be coming with a college football show from Mark and Montana. Montana hosts Well Beyond the Arc, but him and his friend Mark used to do the Connor and Heffron show, which was a variety sports show. They'd really just like to focus on college football, and they asked if they could do it on the Yankee and the Brit, and we were so happy to let them do it. So
happy for that.
Just keep watching, and if you missed it, the playlist every Wednesday, Overtime Hustling. It was a great time. We bring you indie artists, and we do a Freestyle Friday, which is all ciphers and freestyle. So make sure you go check that out, and make sure you tap in tomorrow for our pregame show. Best pregame show out there. You don't need to watch all those talking heads you've seen for years saying the same shit.
I think we've turned the corner with this, Jade. Like I really do. The amount of people that watched the pregame show last week, like I think we're now their pregame show forever now because they had such a good time. So now we're just adding more and more people. So yeah, everybody come and watch the pregame show tomorrow.
Comments.
Jump in the fucking comments. Like we want to see you. We want you to give us shit. Most importantly, that's the most important part.
I like the hate too. So if you can throw hate my way, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I love the hate. We both just thrive off hate. But we're also moving our 3 best bets to that Thursday show. So if you want to know our best bets, our lock-in bets, Thursday, and then our Sunday pregame show, we'll go through every single spread as well with that's just the way we do it. Giving betting tips the whole time.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. You guys have a great night. See you tomorrow. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.